book or turning a page difficult or impossible. The content is copyrighted by the respective publishers. For more information, please visit us on the web at nfradioreading.org.
This is Patricia Mary, and for the next hour, I will be reading from the Saturday, Sunday, August 1st and 2nd issue of Off Duty from the Wall Street Journal on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. From the front page of Off Duty, an arts and entertainment article, which is a long read, they say. 20 things to watch, read, stream, and catch up on during your August downtime. A guide to the year's best entertainment you might have missed. And this is by the Wall Street Journal staff. Life slows down in August, which means space to catch up on the movies, shows, songs, books, and podcast episodes you might have missed earlier this year. Below, a mix of 2026 blockbusters and little talked about gems that are worth any extra moment you may find yourself with this month. One is a watch, a charming murder story. It's called The Sheep Detectives. The year's most unlikely tearjerker comes in the form of a mystery about talking sheep. The sheep detectives follow a flock led by a ewe voiced by Julia Louis Dreyfus, who set out to solve the murder of their beloved shepherd, Hugh Jackman, in a quaint English village. The movie has a pastoral coziness and lots of silly humor, but it's also a moving meditation on death that has adults sobbing. Kids can just appreciate the goofy sheep. This is a good movie. We saw it. Another one to watch, a way to keep the World Cup going. 2026. Warring host nations and juggling soccer balls fill the British mockumentary 2026, a 6-episode series on BritBox about the international staff organizing the 2026 World Cup from Miami. The Office soccer hype content is a social media disaster. Nobody can see David Beckham, on a video call, and staffers make the unfortunate decision to dye their hair Megan Rapinoe pink. Hugh Bonneville's dress and coffee jet up as director of integrity for the games will burn a hole in your stomach just from watching. A beach book from a Pulitzer winner called Villa Coco. Andrew Sean Greer, whose Les took home the top fiction honor in 2018, visits the sun-drenched Italian countryside in his latest comedic novel. While the food descriptions are enough to send readers running for seafood pasta and pastry, the real delights are the ethnocentrics of a baronessa who shouts cuckoo by way of greeting and is in fact a little cuckoo herself. When a gay American man arrives to archive her art collection, he's pulled along by a romance and a deeper mystery at the villa. Something else to watch, the movie that brought Gen Z to the theater. It's called Obsession. Love can make you crazy. No movie this year understands that better than Obsession. The $750,000 low budget film directed by a 26-year-old that just surpassed 400 million at the global box office. Roughly three-quarters of its audience is between 18 to 35. Horror fans and those who like to be in the know must see it. Though if you're a scaredy cat, maybe watch this one during the day. Here's something to listen to. Bold-faced nonfiction authors read their own books. An audio version of Famesick and London Falling. What's better than reading best-selling nonfiction? hearing it from the authors themselves. Actor-writer Lena Dunham voice cracks with emotion in ways girls fans will recognize as she narrates Famesick, a memoir of her work, loves, and controversies. And in London Falling, investigative journalist Patrick Radden Keefe can barely disguise his disbelief at the extent of the botched police probe into the mysterious death of a British teenager who posed as a Russian oligarch's son. Something else to watch: two shows set in coastal New England called one is called Widow's Bay and The Real Housewives of Rhode Island. If you're looking for a TV vacation this summer, the cool waters of New England are calling. In this fictional foggy town of Widow's Bay, trying to sell itself as the next Martha's Vineyard, Matthew Rye smoothly sails through drama, horror, and comedy with impressive range. And then there's The Real Housewives of Rhode Island. Bravo's newest franchise features fights on the beach, a getaway at a historic breaker's mansion, plus a local beach snack known as pizza chips. Something else to watch: a marriage plot set in the Austen cinematic universe, The Other Bennet Sister. Jane Austen's 1813 novel Pride and Prejudice inspires this Brit box drama about Mary Bennet, a sister largely overlooked in the book. Plain and cursed with spectacles, Mary's on a speed train to spinsterhood when her relatives summon her to London, where a suitor awaits. But will she choose Mr. Ryder, the libertine with a hang up about marriage, or Mr. Hayward, the tortured empath who recites poetry to her in a hidden garden? Here's something to listen to: country's music breakout. Ella Langley's Dandelion. No one has dominated country music in 2026 like Ella Langley, who released her sophomore album Dandelion in April. Her melancholy yet danceable single, Choosing Texas, has spent 14 weeks at #1. The follow ups, Be Her and I Can't Love You Anymore, have also been popular. Langley is even converting fans who don't usually listen to her genre. She recently became the first woman in history to land three country songs in the Hot 100 Tops 4 spots. Something to watch if you're looking for drama: A Night of the Seven Kingdoms, DTF St. Louis, and Love Story. Game of Thrones spin-off A Night of the Seven Kingdoms doesn't have the grandeur of its predecessor, but it's just as brutal while also telling a smaller, sometimes even sweeter story. The action follows a hedge knight, played by Peter Claffey, who adopts a pipsqueak squire, played by Dexter Soul Ansel, a move that gets them both into some unexpected trouble. For something less medieval, the sad subterraneans of HBO DTF St. Louis might do the trick, or the tragic romance of Love Story, John F. Kennedy Jr. and Carolyn Bessette. Watch if you're looking for comedy: Nirvana, the band, the show, the movie, Saturday Night's Live UK, and the fall and rise of Reggie Dinkins. The title may be stupefying, but Nirvana, the band, the show, the movie is clever and extremely Canadian. Comedy duo Matt Johnson and Jay McCarroll use guerrilla filmmaking and footage they shot in the mid-aughts to create a time travel caper about their characters' quest to play the ultimate gig. Other surprise wins include the debut cast of Saturday Night Live UK, rising to the occasion, sample their QVC channel and Mario Brothers parodies on YouTube, and the The original SNL Elms, Tracy Morgan, and Bobby Moynihan finding comedic chemistry with Daniel Radcliffe in The Rise and Fall of Reggie Dinkins, with Moran as a disgraced football player making a shaky documentary about his comeback. Something to listen to. Three of the best podcast episodes of the year. Steve Carell on Hang Good Hang, Lena Dunham on Las Curiatas, and Sarah J. Maas on Call Her Daddy. All of these podcasts are at the top of their game. But if you want to sample an exceptional episode, listen to Steve Carell go along with Amy Poehler about growing up in Massachusetts and his chance meeting with his parents. If gossip and snark is what you're after, try Lena Dunham's episode where she talks about an awkward meeting with Apple CEO Tim Cook and quitting vaping. The romantic titan Sarah J. Maas, who rarely grants interviews, talks to Alice Cooper about her long awaited release dates for her next books and answers every question a die-hard fan of her series, A Court of Thorns and Roses, would want to know. Something to watch, a Legends latest documentary, Kingdom, narrated by David Attenborough. Sir David Attenborough, who turned 100 this year, is still at it. His new project, Kingdom, is a six-part series filmed in a single Zambian national park over the course of 5 years. It follows four rival families of lions, leopards, hyenas, and wild dogs as they compete for dominance, with all the shifting alliances, betrayals, and power struggles of a prestige drama. You'll pick favorites, go wild dogs, marvel at the beauty of the natural world, then mourn its brutal realities minutes later. Something else to watch, a milestone in reality show, Survivor 50. While this season is advertised as for the fans, you don't need to be a Survivor expert to enjoy the strategic gameplay, backstabbing, and twists in this historic TV competition. It's a satisfying celebration for a cultural monolith. Afterward, you might even be tempted to watch the previous 49 seasons of the show, a feat that would only take you 22 days of continuous streaming. Something to read, the final installment of a Pulitzer Prize winner trilogy. Colson Whitehead's Cool Machine. Throughout Colson Whitehead's Harlem trilogy, Ray Carney leads a double life, a middle class black entrepreneur and family man running a modest furniture store, as a striving grifter lured into the criminal underworld of a turbulent metropolis. In Cool Machine, the culmination of Whitehead's masterful portrayal of New York spanning 3 decades, Carney clings to the outward trappings of respectability as he tries again and again to outsmart a city that insists success and security means playing by its rules, even the crooked ones. Something to listen to, Song of Summer Contenders. Zara Larson's Midnight Sun, Olivia Rodrigo's Stupid Song, and Drake's Janice. The Swedish singer Zara Larsson released her debut album more than a decade ago, but she's finally won over American audiences with her trance pop of Midnight Sun. Olivia Rodrigo, whose hit Good For You nearly won the summer of 2021, is back with Stupid Song, a theatrical eruption of longing built around a seasonal appropriate metaphor. I'm a heart made of wax and I'm melting in the sun. Drake's bid to soundtrack the warm weather months is Janice, which incorporates a bizarre vocal modulation that makes a simple refrain Beep Beep Baby, strangely addictive. Something to watch. A artist at work without leaving the house. It's called The Christophers. The painter is fictional is in the Steven Soderbergh's movie The Christophers, but he is played by legendary 87-year-old actor Ian McKellen. The actor gives what's arguably one of his finest performances as Julian Skylar, a David Hockney-esque artist with a bitter wit. Skylar is near the end of his life and has abandoned his practice, so his meddlesome children, played by James Corden and Jessica Gunning, hire a forger, Laurie Butler, played Michaela Cole, to complete series of portraits of his ex-lover. The end result is a film that's emotionally resonant look inside the artist's brain. Something to watch. Three shows worth catching up upon. Hacks, The Pit, and Industry. Did you fail to keep up with some of this year's best television? Now's a good time to revisit it. Showbiz Comedy's Hacks wrapped up its five-season run with more hilarious barbs from stand-up Deborah Vance. Hospital's drama The Pit offered up a heart-pounding second season with a lot of horrific injuries, and fourth season of Industry took the action off the training floor and even more scandalous territory when anti-heroine fund manager Harper sets her sights on a startup from the world of online porn. Something to listen to, an accessible electronic album. Boards of Canada's Inferno. Inferno, the first album from Boards of Canada in 13 years, should satisfy the beloved electronic duo's devoted fan base. But new listeners may also find its gorgeous gloom enticing. Layers of synthetic bubble and brood, vocal samples drift in and out of track, flat and unsettling, alluring to God and human biology. On the album's back half, a few unabashedly beautiful songs stand out like rock formations rising from the desert floor, especially Deep Time, which offers a shot of serenity amid all the slow moving menace. Something else to watch: When Love Goes Wrong, the drama, The Invite, and season two of Beef. Screens big and small have been full of unhappy couples this year. The drama has Robert Pattinson and Zendaya circling right above before their wedding. An invite finds Olivia Wilde and Seth Rogen questioning their commitment when their sexy neighbors show up at their door. Beef season 2 has enough friction between two pairs that work at a country club to start a fire. Love hurts, but it's certainly captivating to watch these pairs unravel. Something to listen to. A tragic hero discusses birding. Get Birding with Sean Bean. It's a podcast. This year, the award winning British birding podcast, Get Birding, welcomed a new host known better for portraying doomed heroes like Ned Stark in Games of Thrones than for his knowledge of green woodpeckers. Sean Bean brings a lifelong passion for birds and his endearing Yorkshire accent to mediated, freewheeling celebration of the natural world. Episodes feature expert guests and range from conversations about conservation to memories of the birds that first sparkled lifelong obsessions. Throughout, Bean and his friends emphasize the joy that can be had from slowing down, looking up, and paying attention. If your podcast queue is overloaded with relentless news and true crime, let this be your breath of fresh country air. You are listening to the reading of articles and features from Off Duty from the Wall Street Journal on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. From the fashion page, open AI's clothing ignited debate. Its designer director explains the vision. Critics balked when the creator of ChatGPT released a collection of lifestyle products, including a $175 half-zip sweatshirt and a $70 basketball. And this is by Jamie Waters. Taste Slop's nerd merch. Mortifying. These were just a slice of the heated online reactions to a new release from OpenAI, a line of clothing and accessories including $15 ribbed socks, a $175 half zip sweatshirt, and for reasons not immediately apparent, a green ChatGPT basketball. Ben King, OpenAI's design director, has heard the feedback. We've seen everything, good, bad, and a little bit funky, says King in his first interview since the collection dropped last week. But he continued, the numbers don't lie. Supply Company, the company's online store, is already selling out of some items. New corporation owner of the Wall Street Journal has a content licensing partnership with OpenAI. Its launch followed other leading AI firms selling their own branded merchandise. A $239 Made in America chore code from defense tech giant Palantir, released in April, sold out within hours, according to the company. It's like when your favorite brand releases a new t-shirt, says Dorothy Bartolomeo, 40, who runs an AI research company in Midtown New York, and purchased a $40 open AI tee with the slogan, Good research takes time. She also loves the look of a Codex branded hoodie, which references the coding agent, but finds the graphics on the sleeve hard to read. I do think fashion wise they need to work on that a little bit, she says. AI companies rule the modern world, dominating the economy and shaping our daily decision making. Now they want to conquer our closets too. In a time of heightened tech backlash, companies are releasing styled merchandise that drop and let groupies rep their beloved brands while repelling skeptics who view AI as the end of the world as we know it. As anti AI sentiment has risen, some companies have discouraged staff from wearing corporate logos because of the risk of attacks from members of the public. Still, brands continue to inspire devoted following from tech evangelists. OpenAI has occasionally released one-off items to give the audience a little peek into our ecosystem, King says, but the company wanted to share more products with its fans. King's team has been designing merch for 2 years. In summer 2024, they released their first limited line of items for employees, all free. Everyone froze and jumped onto the site. We probably deleted a lot of model progression, King says, laughing. Some OpenAI developers hacked the site to get 200 water bottles, so it had to be rebooted. One employee started a Burning Man style barter only Slack channel where folks could trade one item for another. On this channel, which has more than 2,000 members, employees give a lot of feedback, says King. Most notes involve logo size. They want them visible, he said, but not splashed like on a billboard. Since then, Supply Company has released teas, caps, and random items such as rice cookers and folding chairs to commemorate company offsites and research and product milestones. King has seen Sam Altman, OpenAI CEO, in one of the hoodies. He said the late streetwear designer Virgil Abloh was a reference point for the new collection. Valued at 852 billion, OpenAI does not need to flog $45 blue the bot covered tote bags that say building things, nor does Palantir need to sell chore coats and tennis skirts to meet its bottom line. Instead, these moves resonate as a soft power play and an attempt to expand their brand identity. OpenAI's new collection was photographed on models posing against an Instagrammable olive green backdrop, much like a shoot from a fashion brand. Ilano Yuns, Planeteer's head of strategic engagement, has called the defense company a style brand on X. David Ecker, the author of several best-selling branding books and vice chairman of consultancy firm Profit, calls these a smart brand building move. The old way of throwing money at an advertising budget just doesn't work anymore, he said. It's hard to imagine big tech companies are truly striving to become known as successful apparel brands, says Simon Siegel, Senior Managing Director at the investment bank in Guggenheim Security. More likely, this feels like a way to literally brand other people. He likened it to Peloton's pandemic era move into apparel. OpenAI's website states that Supply Company will feature collaborations, experiments, and physical expressions of research energy, a wonderfully tortured marketing phrase that, according to King, means merch will be linked to company milestones rather than released with the timing of fashion collections. Of the items on its online store, the basketball seems to be what everyone is talking about, says Bartimo, though she's not quite sure why, since she doesn't think these people personally play basketball. For those wondering, it's a nod to the Golden State Warriors, whose arena is across the street from OpenAI's headquarters, King says. Being an active member of the company's online community has earned Atamo certain benefits. A Codex ambassador sent her a free Codex micro keyboard, which sells for $230 this week. Jay Diaz, 35, has OpenAI's and Codex's logo tattooed on his wrist. Diaz, who worked for the Army and Navy Force Exchange Service in El Paso, Texas, builds apps in his spare time and loves how Codex and Chat GPT has bolstered his coding ability. Last week, he bought 4 items from the new collection, including a tote for his daughter. He already owns pieces from previous releases, including a cap and a t shirt with the OpenAI logo. He likened wearing those to his limited edition KAWS streetwear hoodies, in which they listed a lot of "Where did you get that?" responses. They also spark anger. OpenAI is currently building a data center near El Paso with Oracle, and quite often, when BS has worn the hat and tee, strangers have approached him and said, "Do you know what they're doing to our community?" He'll respond, "Everybody is welcome to their own beliefs." He said that, much like with Sports Club, everyone now chooses their AI team, whether they're Anatropic Claude, which handed out free thinking caps in New York last year, Perplexity, or Google Gemini. I picked Open AI. From the style page, elite brands are on a quest for microplastic free water. Affluent, health conscious consumers are drinking Loonen, Loonen. But can any bottled water rise above tap? And this is by Fiorella Verasolo. This summer's hottest drink isn't a matcha latte or a $1 billion smoothie. It's a bottle of water. From the shelves of bougie Los Angeles grocer Elon to private events at clubs like Casa Caparini, Luen water has become the chosen hydration of the chic affluent, and health conscious. Its glass carafes appeal to eco-anxious consumers who want to eradicate microplastics from their lives. And as water filtration has become an obsession of the rich, the brand's stainless steel process has helped its market $3.99 bottles, and at some stores nearly $6 a bottle, to an upscale clientele. Lewin has become this, if you know, wellness girl accessory, says Whitney Franzway, a star of the Bravo reality show in the city. Real housewife Lisa Rian and pop star Dua Lipa has posted online with bottles and frame. Luann says it sends free products to people we think might genuinely be interested, but does not pay influencers. It kept showing up in my feed for weeks before I ever saw a bottle in person, says Allegra Lorzenta, brand director at Ash Hotels. Suddenly, there it was at her gym in the Tribeca Mom stroller for the sale at the upscale Happier Grocery. Every few years, a new elite from hydration seizes the time. Yvonne gave way to Fiji. Jennifer Aniston made smart water a cultural phenomenon. Liquid Death gave hydration an air of ice for the calorie sober concert crowd. Mountain Valley's green glass bottles guzzled by Jay-Z and Gwyneth Paltrow were for moguls. Essentia, the supercharged ionic alkaline water, was for models and the Kardashians. Once plain water became subject, again, suspect, it became a category you could charge a premium to solve, says Jenna Morozzo, co-founder of Express Checkout, a Substack newsletter about trends in consumer packaged goods. Luon, again it's spelled Loonen, was founded in 2025 by Clara Sieg, who cut her teeth in venture capital, and David Kimmel, a former Spindrift executive. Sieg said that when she was trying to get pregnant, she became curious about what was in her water, food, and household products. It led me down a path of learning a lot about microplastics and endocrine disruptors and how bad they were for your health, she said. Studies have found that bottled water contains higher levels of microplastics than tap. Sieg says Lunan aims to be transparent with consumers about its products. She says Lewin sources from a Southern California spring, uses stainless steel filtration. Never any chemicals, intervention, or plastics, Sieg said. Then adds natural minerals like Celtic sea salt, magnesium, potassium, and calcium. It publishes quantity reports on its website that says are conducted by third party laboratories. Its bottles feature QR codes that direct to these reports. Lunan declined to say how many bottles it has produced to date, but shared that its value is in and is available in 2,000 stores, restaurants, and cafes, as well as on Amazon. The company raised 6.1 million in seeding funding last December, according to PitchBook. In the fancy water market, Lunan is nowhere near the top of the price point index. At the Rose Fashion Show in Paris last fall, the only refreshment was bottles of light water, which claims to be the purest in the world. It costs $248 for a 12 pack of this glass bottled 5 ppm deleted water. Luxury hydration brand One Water Global, which sells for $45 for a 20 pack, was a sponsor at Davos last year. Celebrity facialist Ivan Pohl gives clients like Emma Stone a glass of Holstein water, which sells for $71 for a 6 pack before his signature beauty sandwich treatment. According to Tribeca Beverage Company, a distributor that delivers countless gallons to the 5 boroughs, requests for alkaline, overspring, and distilled have skyrocketed. Consumers are increasingly willing to trade up to functional options that offer health benefits, says Matt Herrick, CEO of the International Bottled Water Association, adding that the global alkaline market is valued at around $5 billion. Health really is wealth right now, says Sammy Newsdorf, founder of luxury grocer Meadow Lane. His store was the first in New York to stock Lunan, selling 2,700 bottles in its first 2 weeks. At the end of the day, water is water. Roger Fielding, a professor of nutrition at Tufts University, said there's no evidence that elite brands have any sort of biological or physiological advantage over other bottled waters. Samantha McBride, a University of Pennsylvania professor studying water security and sustainability, said it's unlikely that any bottled versions are completely free of microplastic traces. Plastics are everywhere, she says. While its bottles are glass, Lunen's caps contain a plastic lining, though the company says it is untainted, uncoated, PFAS and PABA free. The June quality report published on its website said that an independent laboratory did not detect microplastics in the water. In June, the app Oasis, which lets consumers scan product barcodes and view independent testing data, said that a bottle of Lunan is sent for testing shows higher levels of microplastics than other glass bottles it had analyzed. Oasis declined to comment. We've reached out to Oasis a few times to better understand the lab they use, their methodology, and the chain of custody for the samples, but they haven't shared that information with us, Lunan said in a statement. As they note in their own video, testing instruments can contain some of the same materials identified in their results, which is a known cause of false results. The promise of the premium waters is purity. You're not buying an ingredient, you're buying proof of what's been removed, says Microsoft. It's peace of mind in the form of marketing. Pour it in a pretty bottle, sprinkle some social media buzz, and you have a product that's as much joining a cultural movement as it is about the water itself. Recently, cookbook author and food world oracle Alison Roman gave Lunan her social media stamp of approval after discovering it at Two Bunch Palms Hotel in Desert Hot Springs, California. I'm so offline these days that I thought I had unearthed something cool, legendary West Coast water brand, only to be served at an Instagram it for later this year, Roman says. The article also mentions that tap water is regulated by the EPA and bottled water is regulated by the FDA. You're listening to the reading of articles and features from Off Duty from the Wall Street Journal on the Neger Frontier Radio Reading Service. Here's an article by The Life and Style. A completely smooth forehead is out. Strategic wrinkles are in. Dermatologists say clients are increasingly asking for treatments that help preserve fine lines and facial expressions. And this is by Alina Dix. After years battling her forehead wrinkles with Botox injections, Stephanie Aben realized something surprising. She wanted some of them back. She felt like the smooth, shiny skin she had worked so hard to achieve was giving the wrong message. That at age 45, she was trying to look younger than her age. When you're in your 40s, it's like you're pointing an arrow at your head, Ben said. And if daring those around you to speculate about whether you get work done. Today, Ben continues getting Botox injections as well as fillers elsewhere on her face, but she keeps some of her forehead wrinkles as an elevated look that doesn't feel overdone. she says. Ben, a family office executive in New York, is one of the many who are reconsidering their fight against forehead lines. Since Botox was approved to temporarily reduce the appearance of wrinkles in 2002, cosmetic neurotoxins have relaxed muscles in the face have become so popular and widely accessible that a totally smooth countenance has lost some of its feelings. Now, some clients 30 and older are seeking out dermatologists and anesthetists with nursing degrees who can help them maintain a slight patina of wrinkles, at least enough for furrowing and raising the brows. Dr. Tony Rossi, an associate professor of dermatology at the Weill Cornell Medicine in New York and founder of the skincare brand Dr. Rossi, calls the trend strategic wrinkling. Of the clients that seek it out, Rossi says it gives them a little bit of character. In addition to helping clients achieve elongated lined foreheads, Rossi says he works with an increasing number of people who want to keep wrinkles around their eyes. Many of them still use Botox and fillers, which help smooth and restore volume in the face, but a lot less. In many cases, they add other treatments to their regimen. Those treatments may help with a more subtle look, but can still cost thousands each year. Annette Risco, a New York dermatologist, said that those treatments include skin boosting injectables like Skin Vive by Juvederm, which delivers hyaluronic acid under the skin for a smoothing effect. Another is radiofrequency microneedling, which combines tiny punctures with heat to reduce the appearance of lines. Costs for both of these can vary, Risco says, but at her practice, Skin Vibe costs between $800 to $1,200 per treatment and is recommended twice a year, while radio frequency microneedling costs $1,000 to $2,500 per session. Risco often recommends that her clients have an initial series of 2 or 3 radio frequency microneedling sessions, followed by one annually after that. Other popular treatments include fractional laser resurfacing, which is meant to stimulate collagen production, as well as surgical procedures that remove fat from other parts of the body to inject into the face. According to the latest data from the trade group American Society of Plastic Surgeons, published in 2024, fractional laser resurfacing costs an average of $1,800 per session, while fat removal and injection procedures cost between $3,000 and $5,500 a session. Neurotoxin injections, including Botox, Galderma's Dysport, Mesostatic Zanoni, Elonis Junovono, and Reverence Detoxi are still the most popular minimal invasive procedures in cosmetics, according to the American Society of Plastic Surgeons. The number of procedures increased 4% to 9.88 million in 2024 from the prior year, according to the group. Lacey Harris, 40, a orthodontist in Friendsboro, Texas, still uses Botox throughout her face, including in her forehead and around the mouth, but says that she has started asking for fewer units recently. I'd rather be able to look a little surprised and have natural movement, she says. Others have moved away from Botox because they felt neurotoxin injections create problems for them. In general, the injections work by temporarily blocking nerve signals to facial muscles, particularly in the mid forehead and around the brows. Too much product or product placed incorrectly can create drooping in unwanted places. One common complaint from older clients is a parenthesis effect, says Risco, which is when newly formed Curved wrinkles appear above the brows after too much neurotoxin injections. Doris Day, a New York-based dermatologist, tells her patients and social media followers to swap frequent forehead Botox appointments for facial exercise. She says that her ear lift, an exercise she practices in which she squeezes the jaw muscles around her ears, helps decrease brow furrowing with lateral movements. I try to teach each person authentic good facial posture, she says. Rossi, the New York dermatologist, used to get Botox injections to avoid forehead wrinkles, but has stopped. Letting the top half of his face move more allows him to look more trusted and convey years of medical expertise, he says. Though he still makes use of cosmetic procedures, he prefers to leave the smile lines around his eyes intact, taking the advice he often gives to his patients. I keep my wrinkles as well, he says. From the style page, naked dressing is spreading and it's making things awkward. Barely their outfits are moving from the runway to weddings and business conferences. I have no idea where to look right now. And this is by Susan Kepner. When Jennifer Epstein wore a sheer lace skirt that showed off her underwear to dinner with her husband, his response after he regained his ability to speak was, "Where is the rest of your outfit?" Epstein, a pharmacist in Fort Washington, PA, said she wasn't looking for his approval. I feel empowering, the 43-year-old said. It's a modern kind of feminism that embraces self assurance and femininity on your own terms. Naked dressing started as a look for publicity seeking celebrities and fashion designers. Now it's migrating from the runways and red carpets to everyday shoppers, and it's not exactly going smoothly. People are showing up in barely their outfits to business conferences and weddings, prompting shock and discomfort among other attendees. When Christina Espinoza walked into a dinner during a cybersecurity conference in Scottsdale, Arizona, he did a double take. Seated near him was a woman in a bralette and sheer black skirt. I'm not someone who rattles easily, says a 47-year-old founder of cybersecurity company, but I remember thinking I have no idea where to look now. The woman turned out to be the keynote speaker. She killed the speech, but Espinoza said attendees spent more time whispering about her outfit than talking about her presentation. Naked dressers have more options than ever. Zara has a page on its website devoted to lingerie dresses. The Arjan is selling sheer lace dresses through which bras and panties are visible. Michael Kors is pairing triangular bralettes with trousers. Barry has an entire collection called Show Off, including a bra embedded in a sheer lace camisole. We're not pairing the bra tops with underwear, but with pants, says Haley Place, who runs merchandising for Aerie and its sister chain Offline. One of Victoria's Secret's hottest product launches this spring was a strapless bra that could be worn sans shirt. Hailey Bieber modeled it with an unzippered jacket. It's innerwear as outerwear, says Hilary Super, chief executive of Victoria's Secret, which also owns the Pink brand. You are seeing people wear less and less. Some women say showing skin makes them feel liberated. Others see it as another form of female objectification. A lot of people aren't comfortable looking like they are wearing a bikini as an outfit, says Brooke Ronick, a stylist in New York. Pulling off the look requires a certain amount of confidence and an investment in nipple covers, boy shorts, and other undergarments designed to be visible while hiding the most private parts. It's a hard no, says Regina Levy, a 41-year-old attorney in Westchester, New York. I have two prepubescent boys. They would go insane if they saw their mom dressed that way. Women have been shedding clothes for over a century, starting with the corsets and structured undergarments of the Victorian era. In the 1930s, film star Mae West wore a sheer lace dress with strategically placed floral appliques. Singer and actress Jane Birkin later immortalized the see-through crochet dress. Madonna's Jean Paul Gaultier designed cone bra was a star attraction of her 1990s Blonde Ambition tour. And women still talk about the sheer silver slip dress that Kate Moss wore in 1993 that showed off just about everything. The look has become so ubiquitous among celebrities that last year the Cannes Festival adopted a nudity policy. That didn't stop stars from Bella Hadid to Riley Cohn showing up at this year's festival in barely bare gowns. Weddings are another challenge. At a recent Hawaiian themed wedding in Sausalito, California, most guests arrived in Hawaiian shirts and hula skirts, but one wore a nude colored thong, bikini bottom, and a bandeau top, said Nikita, whose event company hosted the affair. Candida told the woman there was a dress code and if she didn't put on more clothes, she would be asked to leave. She walked her across the street where she bought a cover up. Candia says the style is becoming so pervasive that now includes specific instructions on the invitations. Some brides are bringing extra dresses in case of guest related wardrobe violations. And a 10-day at one black tie wedding wore a white dress that was practically see through. She wasn't wearing a bra. Candia borrowed the photographer's camera and showed the woman how her dress looked in photos. She suggested the woman change into a fully lined blue dress the bride had bought for just such an emergency. At a wedding, the bride should be the center of attention, not some friend who is basically naked. Epstein's husband, Brian Epstein, is still getting used to his wife's fashion choices. It's shocking when she wears something see through, said the 55-year-old entrepreneur. He has learned not to argue with her about fashion. She tells me I don't know what I'm talking about, and I say, you're right. From the travel page. On Maryland's wine trail, come for underrated reds and stay for the food. And this is by Jane Black. At Burnt Hill Farm, a hilltop winery in Clarksburg, Maryland, a suburb just outside of Washington, D.C. by an hour. The best table is any table, 45 minutes before sunset. On a recent evening, from a seat at the restaurant's blonde wood bar, I watched as a blaze of honeyed light poured through a wall of windows overlooking sloping vineyards and the Appalachian foothills. It was enough to distract me from my glass of toasty, sparkling wine, not to mention the food spread out before me. A silky connection of cured pork from woolly Mangalista pigs raised on the property and a hunk of roasted tomato focaccia laced with garlic pesto. Maryland is not exactly known for its wines. Virginia has hogged the spotlight in the region for decades. That might be starting to change, thanks partly to Burnt Hill, which opened in 2025 and introduced a 12-seat chef counter at the Vineyards restaurant this spring. Maryland wine has been our little secret, says David McIntyre, author of the newsletter Dave McIntyre's Wine Line, who lives in Silver Springs, Maryland. There is an exciting cadre of wineries that set a high bar for quality. There are around 85 wineries in Maryland with some of the best conditions for growing grapes that can be found in a small area northwest of Washington, according to McIntyre, a former wine critic for the Washington Post. A day trip's plenty of time to visit several, and if you plan right, spoil yourself with exceptional food also. A place to gather. I began a day of wine hopping at Old Westminster Winery, which is owned by the same family as Burnt Hill. Until 2020, in Westminster, Maryland, operations looked a lot like any basic winery. A no-frills tasting room and picnic tables where guests could eat food brought from home or purchased from an on-site truck. Old Westminster set up outdoor igloos during the pandemic, then replaced them with a modernistic village of A-frame cabanas. The huts seat up to six and can reserve for tasting or a meal of wood-fired pizzas from the winery's restaurant, which opened in 2020. Its menus include gussied-up side dishes like honey glazed carrots with whipped feta. Tay Strand, the chef who oversees the restaurant at Burnt Hill, also runs Westminster's kitchen. Old Westminster wines are more approachable. Read, less expensive than Burnt Hills. The staff members, who are knowledgeable and enthusiastic, are no less serious about the product. On a hot day, they're likely to steer you towards the strawberry-hued rosé or the honey, a blend of Chardonnay and Riesling that is finished with local honey, an easy sell even to those who don't like sweet wine. Sip and Stroll, a 20-minute drive from Old Westminster, serious Bordeaux-style blends await at the Black Ankle Vineyard. Order a flight or a bottle at the bar, then head outside to the winery's food truck for a plate of arnishi or a smash burger. On weekends for $25, a hour-long guide tour takes visitors around the farm and includes tastings of wines that might not otherwise be available by a glass. Taylor, our cheery guide, met us wearing a short-sleeved button-down shirt and a bow tie. As he led us around, he delved into the nerdy details of winemaking and provided backstories to the winery's most popular bottles. The light-bodied red, he explained, was a rosé gone wrong when winemakers forgot to remove the grape skins at the correct time. Next spring, Black Ankle's proprietor will debut Live Edge Vineyard, a new winery in Clarksburg, not far from Burnt Hill. The property will have a tasting room and tables among the trees on platforms between 6 and 30 feet off the ground. Another stop or two. To round out your tour of the state wineries, you have options. You can head to Darnestown, where Windbridge Vineyards make a vibrant Lambrusco like sparkling red. Alternately, if you want to walk off lunch, take a hike up Sugarloaf Mountain before having a final glass of wine at nearby Sugarloaf Mountain Vineyard. Enjoy. You have been listening to the reading of articles and features from Saturday, Sunday, August 1st and 2nd issue of Off Duty from the Wall Street Journal. We read from Off Duty every Saturday at 8 p.m. Your reader has been Patricia Mary. Thank you for listening. God bless and be safe out there.
Coming up next on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service, we have Sports Illustrated. At 10 o'clock, we have The Athletic, and at 11 o'clock, we have episode number 3 of Had a Call Boogie by James Lee Burke. Stay with us for these readings and more. The following program is intended for listeners who are blind, have low vision, or have another print disability.